Bohemia Interactive have just released a new title in the Arma franchise, Arma Reforger. Arma Reforger is another military sandbox simulator type game, staying to the theme of the previous Arma games. This one is set in the 1980s, it's got two teams, US and Russia. What this game is not is Arma 4, this is not Arma 4. It's the same engine that Arma 4 is going to be on, and it's like kind of a stepping stone between Arma 3 and Arma 4. I guess it's still going to be a little while before we get to see Arma 4, so they're kind of releasing something, I guess, between now and then, before we get the full whistles and bells Arma 4 release. But, as I say, it is a military sandbox simulator. It's got weather, it's got night and day. There's just less content than what's going to come out with Arma 4 at the end of the day, I think. However, it does come with quite a few guns and several land vehicles, but there are no tanks and there is no aircraft. We get one map, quite a large map. It's an island map which is based on the real Croatian island of Kruk. I think that's how I'm pronouncing it right. I'm just repeating what I heard the developers say in the developer livestream. But it is a remake of a map that was released on an older version of Arma apparently, but I'm guessing this is actually quite different than how that original map was. It is available on PC, and I believe it is also available already on Xbox Series X. At this time, I'm not sure about PS5 release. I'm assuming one is planned for the future. They say it's going to be released on consoles. In the developer livestream that I saw, they didn't specifically say just Xbox, so I assume it's going to come out on the PlayStation 5 as well. The game will work with the joypad. Although the controls are not perfect, in the developer livestream they did admit that they are still working on joypad controls, still perfecting them to get them just right for the console players. But talking of controls, I've been playing on PC with mouse and keyboard and the controls feel very good. The way you interact with the game is much more intuitive and easy than what it is in Arma 3, for example. I would call the control system kind of like a cross between DayZ and Arma 3 a little bit, but still with some quite new changes to the way that you control the game. Like, you don't have to hold the right mouse button to raise your weapon in this like you do in DayZ, but there are definitely some similarities to DayZ, as I say, like you hold tab for the inventory and it's more of a DayZ type inventory, not exactly, but probably more similar to DayZ than Arma 3. But the controls are definitely a lot more simplified than what they are in Arma 3. Of course, at the moment there's no controls for controlling AI or anything like that. But Arma 3, you know, is pretty bad because you've got all the extra keys for controlling the AI, as well as there's quite a lot of keys that you use in the game as well. Arma 3, you actually use almost every single key on the keyboard. But in Arma Reforger, that's not the case. You do still use quite a lot of the keys though. You still got like K for compass, L for flashlight. But generally it's a lot more streamlined, I think, overall. But you'll notice interacting with things in the world is probably the biggest difference, probably the biggest improvement in fact, where you don't really use the roller very much. You certainly not as much as you do in Arma 3. Like, for example, to get into a car you just sort of like look at the driver's seat and the option comes up, press F to enter the vehicle. That's like it is in DayZ. But once you're in the vehicle, if you want to change seats, you just look at the seat that you want to change to, and then the option comes up, press F to change seat. You know, rather than having to select it through the mouse roll or anything like that. So that's definitely like streamlines the controls and makes it feel a lot more nice to use, in my opinion. One of the ways they've changed it, which is different to any previous game that Bohemia Interactive have done, as far as I'm aware, is that the use of the radio and the use of proximity chat are on two separate keys, which I really like. Actually, I much prefer it that way. So you like hold down the caps lock to talk on the radio, but to do proximity chat you hold T. So yeah, that works out quite well actually. I found in the short time that I've played on the conflict game mode, it worked out pretty well. In the developer live stream, the developers talked a lot about the work that's gone into the simulation. As you'd expect with the Arma games, they've put a lot of work into making it as realistic as possible, with the developers saying they've put a lot of work into the weapon ballistics, projectile calculations, you know, the penetration, you know, working with multiple calibers, and there's also quite a lot of work gone into the vehicles too, which I've not used the vehicles too much yet, but from what I've seen so far, it's definitely a massive improvement from Arma 3 and DayZ, in fact. As I said, there's also the VoIP, but you can also like talk just with text as well. Press enter to talk to each other using just text. But one interesting thing about the radio, actually, while we're talking about VoIP, is that radio has a limited signal depending on the device you're using. So if you're using a little handheld radio set, you're not going to get as much range as you know, someone who's set up like a big radio station at a forward operating base or something like that. And that's definitely a nice feature. I don't know if they put that in any previous Arma games or not. Not as far as I'm aware, it's probably been included in some mods or something like that, but yeah, that's definitely a very nice touch, and it works pretty well in the conflict game mode as well, where the your radio signal affects like how far forward you can move up, as far as I'm aware. So you can't go straight like behind enemy lines and go set up some base miles behind enemy lines. You definitely have to work your way up across the map as you go in. The devs did say that in their live stream that there would be more vehicles and features added in 2022, so we can see more content. We can definitely expect to see more content coming soon. But the game does release with a couple of game modes. It's got the Game Master mode, which is like Zeus from Arma 3, and there's the Conflict multiplayer game mode that I mentioned. The Game Master mode does have limits on the resources that you can use. Now, the reason they've set these resource limits is in order to make sure that the game remains playable on all systems, no matter what's going on the servers. But they have actually done a lot more work into making mods more easy to use, which actually definitely sounds really good. They're not using the Steam Workshop, it's all done in-game. There's an in-game workshop. So the mod management is just going to be a lot easier as long as they do it right, like I've seen in a few other games that do this. So if you want to join a server that's got mods on it, you just like look at the server in the lobby and then try to join it. And if there's any mods that you need, it will automatically download those mods. You're not going to have to, like with Arma 3, you'd have to exit the game, go find these mods, download them separately, and then go into the game and hope that you've got all the right ones and switched off the ones that you don't need. But does not apparently that's not going to be the case any longer. It's just like join the server and it'll automatically do the mod management for you, which is excellent news. And as I say, works very well in some other games that I've played where they've done that. Now, from what I understand, what they were saying in the live stream, to actually create the mods need to be created on a PC, although you can download the mods and play the mods on console too, not just PC, which is very good news, I thought. Of course, you can't really have Arma without mods, so as it's going to consoles, it's great to see that the mods are coming with it as well. Apparently, the mods are also going to be a lot easier to make. They've done a lot of work on the tools and integrating the mod creation tools with the game as much as possible, and I think that's kind of the emphasis of this Arma Reforger, is they really want people to get crazy with the mods, and it's probably also so that when Arma 4 does come out, there's actually going to potentially be a lot of mods that can be ported over, probably just with very little work, if any actually do need work, to be ported over to Arma 4, so we get a lot of content when Arma 4 does come out, which is a good idea, I think. Although, as I was saying about the mods being made on PC, obviously the consoles have some limitations on the sorts of things that they can play on the console. Everything that's in the game at the moment is playable on console as far as I know, just the same as it is on PC. But there is the option for the modders there is the option for mod developers to push the mods beyond what the consoles are actually capable of doing. So some mods could potentially only work on PC. You know, the really, really resource-heavy mods, but the majority of mods, I'm quite sure, will work on console as well. I mean, you've got to actually, by the sound of it, you've actually got to be pushing the limits quite heavily in order to make a mod that won't work on console. But yeah, that's going to be interesting to see just how that pans out, just how many mods are available on the console. I hope it is the majority, because as I say, mods are pretty essential to Arma, definitely for like your long-term enjoyment of the game. The mods definitely help there. But with this talk of console, you're probably wondering, is there going to be cross-platform play? Because that's quite a common thing on console and PC games now. And yes, indeed, all the content that is playable on PC and console will actually have the option for cross-platform play. So yeah, that's actually really interesting to see that in Arma. But it's always good, always good news to keep the communities as big as possible. In the past, I've always thought it was a shame where, people are playing, especially like with racing games and stuff like that. There's a lot of people playing on console, and then maybe not so many people playing on PC. So if you're playing on PC, you get limited lobby sizes, and if you could just play with those people on console as well, it'd just be a lot better. So, but yeah, obviously it probably won't work quite so well in Arma with some people playing with joypad and some people playing with mouse and keyboard. But there are lots of different roles you can have within Arma. Someone that's like doing flying or tank driving only or something like that probably be almost no difference at all whatsoever, but running around as infantry in the towns and on the ground, diving between trees in the forest and stuff like that, maybe the control pad would be a bit limited compared to a mouse and keyboard, but we'll have to see. But I'm still glad to see that the option's there anyway. At the moment, the servers are limited to 64 players max, is what they said on the dev live stream. Although when I actually went into the lobby, I could see that there are a few servers with more than 64 players, but at the moment there's quite a lot of connectivity issues going on, so any servers that do have more than 64 players, I'm sure they would have more connectivity issues than the 64 player servers already do, but I don't know, maybe not. I've not been on any of the servers with more than 64 players yet to check it out. I think I should give a quick mention to the audio as well, something that's very good in Arma 3, the audio, directional audio. It's not perfect, but it's still very, very good. Works better than it does in quite a few games I've played, actually. And as far as I know, calculates very realistic things like such as sound bouncing off hills and things like that, which you definitely won't get in other games. But in the live stream, the dev live stream, they showed some of the clips of the sounds being recorded with people recording genuine sounds of like weapons and vehicles, the actual ones that are used in the game as well, and also saw them recording lots of sounds of things being smashed and broken and people jumping on top of cars to get the sound of people being run over and stuff like that, I guess, which is pretty interesting. Apparently the game has a completely or almost completely operatic score, which was created by an actual like orchestra, so you know that's pretty good. It's obviously got a lot of there's a lot of money gone into developing the audio, so hopefully it'll be, you know, only an improvement from Arma 3, which will be amazing because, as I say, the audio is actually pretty good in Arma 3. But as I did mention, I've been playing it and there's definitely some issues with connectivity at the moment, and hopefully they sort that out. But yeah, I've probably had no more than about half an hour, maybe not even that, maybe 25 minutes is about the most I've played online so far without getting a disconnection. But obviously there's a lot of people, it's the very first day that I'm playing here and recording this, very first day that the game's out, and there's loads and loads of people trying to join the servers all of a sudden, so yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. But, you know, still able to get some playtime. There's still the tutorial as well, although there's no single player mission at all whatsoever, but the tutorial's not too bad. You know, it teaches you the basics, and actually teaches you the basics, not just the controls, but how to get started in the conflict game mode as well, which is pretty interesting actually. I think they said in the dev live stream something like the conflict game mode was designed to try and incorporate as many like aspects of the game that are in there, that are currently in there, as possible. You know, try and put everything they've got in the game, and that's probably the best game mode for doing it. And yeah, it seems to work pretty well. I've already been, you know, just from playing, you're immediately like communicating with people in teams, in vehicles, driving across the map, getting to where the action is. Already involved in setting up an ambush and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely pretty good fun. The majority of the traffic to my YouTube channel is probably around the King of the Hill videos, so there's probably a lot of people watching this wondering, like, is it good for King of the Hill? What do you think about King of the Hill on Arma Reforger? Yeah, I'd like to see King of the Hill. I mean, at the moment it's obviously only good enough for an infantry, there's only enough content, I should say, for infantry only King of the Hill. And I don't know if like what's currently out there for the dev tools and the game, like what you can actually do with creating the game modes and stuff. I don't know if everything's in place that you would need to make King of the Hill work. I assume it is, but I don't know. Because I don't know too much about like making mods or anything like that. But the equipment's there, the teams are there, 2 teams obviously, 64 players max, so smaller servers. But the map, there's kind of only, well, I mean, in my opinion, there's only one town that's big enough. I know there's other town, like the biggest town on this map currently in King of the Hill. You'll see some towns, some AOs that are even less built up than the largest town on the map that comes with Reforger. There are towns which are definitely comparable to the smaller towns which are used in the game, but there's only one town that's kind of big enough in my opinion. It's definitely usable for King of the Hill though, you know. They'd probably use about 4 of the towns, but the other 3 would be very, very small, like on par with some of the smallest towns you're likely to play in King of the Hill. But with, you know, 2 teams, less players, that probably might actually work out pretty well. But personally, I'd probably only be interested in playing in a larger town, even with 64 players. But yes, definitely the game's capable of it, and I'd definitely like to, personally, I would like to see King of the Hill on Arma Reforger. I think it'd be pretty good actually. Whether or not that's going to happen, I have no idea. People are speculating, I've seen on the King of the Hill Discord, but there's no mention from the devs yet, as far as I'm aware, the King of the Hill devs about King of the Hill on Arma Reforger. But we're still waiting for King of the Hill V15 anyway, which I'm highly looking forward to. I hope they still work on that, and then if it takes a bit longer for Arma Reforger King of the Hill, if they're even doing it, then, you know, so be it. That's cool with me. Okay, let's have a quick look at the map. I'm using the call it this, the Game Master mode to have a quick look at the map here. See this small towns on this map, they're very small. It's just one island. It's not particularly big, but it's not tiny, so you know it's just right for ready for gameplay on Arma. Obviously not as big as Altus or anything like that, but definitely bigger than some of the mod maps that are out there, some of the smaller ones. But as you can see, the towns are usually quite small. They're not even towns, they're villages really, aren't they? Yeah, as I was saying, the graphics are pretty good in this game actually. Some ways they feel better than DayZ Standalone. A couple of areas they don't feel better than DayZ Standalone. Third person model doesn't seem to be as good. It's not far off, I suppose. I was expecting a bit better from that, but you know, that's the sort of thing that's going to be improved in the future, obviously. But in all ways, the graphics are better than Arma 3, as far as I can tell. The landscape would be fairly familiar to people that played like DayZ Chernarus. It's not the same resources, but very similar. Definitely a similar sort of feel, similar sort of vibe. And you can see we've got like fields, we've got forests, some roads, not a huge amount of roads and paths, but some. Bit of a lake there. And up in the north is where we've got the biggest town and the runway. See, these towns, you play King of the Hill in some towns that sort of size. On some maps, like Malden probably plays towns about villages really about that sort of size. So it's a bit too small for me really. Only the largest map, only the largest town that I consider really. That's almost there, but like not really. That's still a very small town really. That's only the largest one I would say was suitable for King of the Hill really, but they do play on villages this small. Up here in the north, this is probably the largest town right here. This one's just about big enough for King of the Hill, I reckon. And right next to the runway, I don't know where the spawning points would be. Only 2 teams, of course, in this. 64 players max, although, as I said, I've seen servers with more, but, you know, the stability is probably not going to be there. Let's have a quick look in the airport here. This is quite interesting. Say, all new map resources. Look at that, that's cool. The frame rate's definitely good. It runs well. Again, probably not as good as DayZ I'm finding, but probably got the graphics turned up a bit more in this than I would have at DayZ at the moment. We have a look around this town here. It's getting a bit closer. It looks like all the buildings are enterable, certainly the majority, if not all, which is good. Some of the previous Arma maps, which had less enterable buildings, just didn't feel as good. You know, like one that came with the Apex DLC. I don't remember the name of it offhand now, but it's because you couldn't go in as many buildings. It had like a fairly large town in that, but because you couldn't go in as many of the buildings, it just didn't feel usable. You know, it didn't feel as good as like a smaller town where you could go in more buildings to actually play in. Yeah, still, this definitely looks very good. That's actually definitely big enough for King of the Hill. I can see when I zoom in down here now. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. Quite impressed with the map. I wonder what it would take to convert the DayZ standalone Chernarus to this Arma Reforger. I wonder if it's going to be done. That I would like to see, and that would definitely have places suitable for King of the Hill. Playing in Cherno and Electro from that map, yeah, that'd be really good. I'll put a link in the description to this developer livestream that I keep talking about, that I keep mentioning. But you're probably wondering, like, what's my conclusion, what's my overall opinion, should you buy Arma Reforger or not? Well, if you want to support the Arma franchise, and you're looking forward to Arma 4 and you want to do everything you can to support the development of Arma 4, then yeah, buy it. In my opinion, maybe it is a little expensive going by Bohemia Interactive standards, but compared to some of the other first-person shooters that are out there, it's actually quite a reasonable price, I think. And as I said, many of the people that are watching this are probably King of the Hill players, so you're probably wondering, is it going to be on King of the Hill? Well, at the moment, I don't know. I don't know if King of the Hill is going to be on this. As I said, there's no word from the developers yet, as far as I know, so it's possible that it will not come out on this, but yeah, I don't know. But still, I like it. I'm playing it quite a lot. I'm enjoying it. I'm definitely happy with the purchase. It's great fun to play. Currently only a couple of game modes, but I'm sure many are going to come soon, no doubt about it. It's not without its issues. It does have a few mouse issues, like if you move your mouse too fast, it just simply ignores the input basically, so you can't do really fast 180s as far as I'm aware, even if you've got a pistol. Personally, I would definitely like to see the ability to do super fast 180s like normal in a normal first-person shooter, if you've got a pistol or SMG maybe, but with a, obviously a big machine gun or something, yeah, definitely don't spin around too fast. I don't know if you know what I mean, what I'm talking about. It's like the sort of thing when you get in tanks in Battlefield like that, you can't like spin the turret around too fast, it just ignores your mouse movements once you go over a certain speed basically. Also had some issues with aiming with the mounted gun on the Jeep, that seemed a bit weird as well, but the main thing at the moment is lots of disconnections in the online games. Just constantly getting disconnected, as I mentioned earlier as well, and it seems like it's a very common problem. A lot of people having constant disconnections, but I'm sure that'll be sorted soon. That's probably the primary thing that Bohemia Interactive want to sort out at the moment, so I'm sure that'll be fixed soon. Overall, it's very good. I would recommend it, especially to fans of the Arma franchise. But anyway, I hope you found these useful and interesting. Hopefully I'll see you next time. Take it easy.